Makiam Shalom. Before we get started with this lesson, we want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahawashi, Bahashim, Rakak, Wadash. Double honors to the apostles, elder bishops of Great Millstone. Double honors to the high priest elders that were before them. Peace and salutations to you sincere brothers out there pushing this word with all sincerity and in truth. With the brothers from Great Millstone, the Austin camp, back at it with another live lesson. Okay, and I got the brothers on the call with me. I got the brother Kassad on the call.
Shalom.
The brother Bamalak.
Shalom.
And the brother Yaradan.
Shalom.
Yep, and like I said, we the brothers from Great Millstone, Austin camp, and we're gonna get back with another live lesson regarding we're gonna go into Esau, Edom, and the importance of knowing who Esau is in today's time. Okay, because throughout the scriptures, the holy scriptures, okay, Esau, Edom is condemned. All right, it is hated by the Heavenly Father. Okay, and it portrays a big part to the nation of Israel, right, which consists of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Okay, it's very important to know who Esau, Edom is, right, because we were twin brothers in the womb. All right, and you got a lot of, it's 2026, man, and you got a lot of theories, philosophies regarding who Esau, Edom is. Okay, you got certain rulers, leaders, trying to break down, trying to explain that Esau, Edom pertains to a specific race. Okay, but all these theories are false, all right, and the only way you're going to get the truth, all right, on who Esau, Edom is through the mouthpiece of the Heavenly Father, which are the prophets, man, to bring forth out this edification regarding Esau and Jacob. Okay, so we're going to get straight to it. All right, the beginning of this history, man. All right, regarding Esau, Edom. So if brothers don't got anything to add on, we can get straight to Genesis, the book of Genesis 25.
You got it.
This is Genesis chapter 25 and verse 20. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife.
Yep, and Isaac is our forefather, okay? As the scriptures, the seed of the promise, as the scriptures say, it fell down through Abraham, his son Isaac, and his son Jacob. Okay, so right now we're reading about our forefather, Isaac. Okay, you got it, brother.
Genesis 25 and 20 from the top. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padaram, the sister to Laban the Syrian.
You got it.
Verse 21. And Isaac entreated the Lord Yahweh for his wife, because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived.
Yep. So Isaac prayed to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, for his wife, because Rebekah, his wife, was unable to conceive children. And in other words, she couldn't have children. Okay, so ultimately the Lord, responded to the prayer, and Rebekah, Isaac's wife, she conceived children. You got it, bro.
Genesis 25 and 22. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord Yahweh.
God. So the children, right, struggle together. So in that point, you could tell that, okay, it's more than one baby, and Rebekah's womb. It's twin brothers ultimately, man. And they struggled together, which is going into how they were fighting in the womb, which is very important history to know regarding Esau and Jacob, because since the womb, they were struggling together. They were fighting, shoving one another, kicking. You see, and Rebekah went to go and inquire of the Lord, because she had just conceived children. She couldn't bear children, and now that she's bearing children, the children are struggling inside of her. So, in a way, she's like, "What's going on here? If the Lord bless me, why is it that I'm going through this?" You got it, brother. Verse 23.
If I
And
may.
the Lord,
Oh, you got it.
Come on,
You got it. You got it.
Genesis 25 and 23. And the Lord Yahweh said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels.
Mm-hmm.
And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger.
Yep. Okay. So Yahweh, responded saying, "Hey, the reason why you going through what you're going, struggling in your womb, your children are fighting, is because there are two nations in thy womb." And this is a major key factor because before this, there maybe was, other people that had twins, right, in the womb, but the scriptures clearly point out that it's two nations that are in the womb of Rebecca and two manner of people. That's another major key factor. It says two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And it goes on to say that one people would be stronger than the other. So one of the brothers would be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. You got it, bro.
Genesis 25 and 24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb.
Mm-hmm.
And the first came out red all over, like an hairy garment. And they called his name Esau.
And if a brother can, Bond, if we can get the root word etymology on the word Esau, which hopefully the blue letter don't go off, because sometimes, they be going off on topics like this, right? Because they don't want people to really know who Esau, Edom is and all that stuff. But, verse 25 said that the first came out red, and, he was hairy like a garment, and they called his name Esau. So the first son that came out was Esau. You got it, Bond.
And that's Strong's 86215. See if you can. Esau. The outline of biblical uses, it says hairy. It says the eldest son of Isaac and Rebekah, the twin brother of Jacob, sold a birthright for food when he was hungry, and the divine blessing went to Jacob. And then it goes off, because it says the progenitor of the Arab, which we know that's not it. It goes off from there. We can go to the root word, and that's it for Esau.
The water, bro. So Esau's name goes into wasted away. Joshua. Because Esau, as the script said in verse 25, he came out red. Okay? So, he didn't have no pigmentation. He didn't have low melanin. All right? He came out different. He came out red, and it says all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau, which goes into wasted away. So Esau was wasted. And how is it that Esau was wasted? Because he was lacking pigmentation, right? He looked different. He looked different than Jacob, for sure.
His blood showed forth through his skin, right?
So it was translucent.
Right. So Joshua goes into wasted away is he, like the brother's going into, because he have any pigmentation. But the brother can get that account with Miriam, how the Lord took her pigmentation away when she was mocking her brother Moses. The brother can get that account.
I got that in Numbers 12.
You got it, brother.
Pull that up.
And then you got it
The
back
book
after
of Numbers.
that.
We'll go right to the point. Slack.
Now go ahead. You can start at what, 12? 12 and 12?
Or you want to get right to the point? That is 12 and 12.
Come.
It says, Numbers, the book of Numbers, chapter 12 and verse 12. It reads, let her not be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed, when he cometh out of his mother's womb.
Right. So she looked at as she was as dead, lacking life in her flesh, no pigmentation at all, one consumed when she cometh out of her mother's womb. Ultimately she was leprous snow. If we start up at verse 10 right quick.
Verse 10.
Yep.
God. The book of Numbers, chapter 12 and verse 10. And it reads, and the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam and beheld she was leprous. Verse 11, and Aaron said unto Moses, at last, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned.
That's right.
Verse,
and
I will read verse 12 again. It said, let her not be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed, when he cometh out of his mother's womb.
That's right. And another account is when Moses' hand was turned leprous white. So the Lord is showing you throughout the scriptures how he, what it looks like when he takes the pigmentation off of you. A brother know that account is that as well. Now we bring this out because it's important when it comes down to it. To kind of, it kind of tells us who Esau is, but ultimately we know Esau by his character. How he operates, because us being scattered to the four winds of the earth, we come looking like any and everybody. Not a black thing, not a white thing. We understand the self-proclaimed white man has exalted his image, deified his image on earth through white supremacy and colorism, as the brother's going to get into, and everything. But we just showing that, man, the Lord has made Esau a certain kind of way, so that, we will be able to identify him today. You got it, brother. Which is ultimately the mark of Cain. All right, brothers. Cain was hit with that mark, and the spirit that's within Esau is the same spirit that was operating within Cain. Cain hated his brother. Cain was fleshly or carnal when it came down to it. He hated his brother because of his righteousness, and that's the same spirit operating in Esau. But we'll get into that as well. What you got it, brother?
God.
Bamalak.
Okay, God.
Yeah, I know it's in should have been at trying to find it.
It's Exodus 4 and 6.
Is it 4 and 6? Go calm the water. The book of Exodus, chapter 4, and verse 6, and it reads, and the Lord Yahweh said furthermore unto him, put now thine hand in thy bosom. And he put his hand in his bosom, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow.
All right, you keep going.
Verse 7, and he said, put thine hand into thy bosom again. And he put his hand into his bosom again, and plucked it out of his bosom, and behold, it was turned again as his other flesh.
Right. So meaning that when his hand turned colors. All right. When he put it in, pulled it out, it was leprous and slow. But when he put it in and pulled it out, it was back to the same complexion that it was, at first. Just showing that there's a difference, in it. And he was leprosy snow, meaning that he didn't have any pigmentation on that hand when he pulled it out. All right. But just a few examples. Tazamot, you got it.
Con. No, yeah, con, brother, the water, because those are major key words that the scriptures use, and both accounts, it says white as snow. You see, so the opposite of white as snow would be a dark complexion. So, no, yeah, let's go. We were in Genesis 25 and verse 26.
Genesis 25, verse 26. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them.
Con, so Esau came out first, and Jacob came out second, but Jacob, right, which the word Jacob in the Hebrew is Yaakov, which means supplanter. Okay, he was, when he came out, he was holding on Esau's heel, which the scriptures later on, bring that up also in the New Testament, that that significance to Esau's downfall, right? Jacob holding on to Esau's heel was a symbolic to Jacob pulling Esau down, in other words.
Right.
Okay?
And that's Second Ezra chapter 6 and 7 through 9 is the brothers going into Jacob coming in after Esau's rulership. So it says, then answered Isaac said, what shall be the part and asunder of times, or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said, all right, and this is Ezra speaking with the angel, Uriel, and he said, unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau was born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followed. You got it, brother.
Yep. So that's what the whole symbolic meant. That Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. You see, but you could even tie in with us brothers, because Jacob was holding the heel of Esau, all right, which means he would pull him down, right? And it's all symbolic to what's going on, but it really ultimately means that once Esau's end would come, Jacob's rise would come eventually after. But I believe that's it on Genesis 25. Let me see. Oh, you know what? Let's get to the birthright. Let's jump down a couple precepts in that chapter, Genesis 25. Let's jump down to verse 30 or verse 29, Baba Kasha, just to get that history, the account on the birthrights and the blessing.
Genesis 25 verse 29. And Jacob sowed pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint.
Yep, and Jacob was a plain man. He dwelled in tents, and Esau was a cunning hunter. So Esau came from the field, which means he was hunting, and he was tired. He was faint. You got the next precept, bro.
Verse 30, and Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom.
Yep, and also in Genesis, I believe 36, tells you that Esau dwelt in Mount Seir. So Esau is Edom, which Edom means red in the Hebrew. The word Edom in the Hebrew is Adawan, which means red. And, that ties in ultimately to him being translucent, having no pigmentation, ultimately him being wasted away because he's not white. All right, Esau, Edom, he has created a theory where he believes that he is a white so-called white man, which we know white is pure, white is holy, and his true color is red. That's why his name is Edom.
Right. Can this the AI overview of the word white. All right. It says white, the color of snow or milk, represents purity, cleanliness, innocence, and neutrality. Often symbolize new beginnings, peace, and simplicity. It is widely used to denote sterility in healthcare, formal tradition, and wedding, or conversely, mourning in some cultures. But basically, he has basically put on this disguise as being pure, innocent, and clean on the face of this earth. So he went about calling himself white, I believe, in the 1680s. Let's see. You can go into this right quick. When did white people when was it? When did white come into existence?
1861 maybe, somewhere around there.
I'm just gonna put in right quick in the Google, when was white people created? And see what comes up. Because they used to call themselves about by their nations, you know. You ask a so-called white man his nationality, or what is he? He's gonna say, well, I'm white, and that's just something as a social construct when it comes down to it that was used to separate him as the ruling class of people. Back in the I want to say 1680s, when they came over here around the time they was coming over here, and they started separating the classes of people into lower class, high class, and slave class, because they wanted certain individuals to have more rights and certain rights to pertain, or laws to pertain to certain people and everything that were colored or Negroes and everything. So if it comes up, it comes up. I'll find it, but it's all out there, man. It talks about how they went about pretending to be these innocent, righteous people, when in actuality they're the opposite. They're blacks. The real, excuse me, allergies, but the real black, are them. The real blacks are them when it comes down to it. All right, let's get this right quick. Black is the darkest color, resulting from complete absorption of light. It says, so there's no light in it, but often symbolizes power, elegance, mystery, and formality. And that's newly things, because we go into the older dictionaries, is going to tell you that it's wicked. It represents death, and everything, and everything bad. Because in the ancient times, or even now, the character that's evil is the one that's in the dark colors and the dark, characteristics and everything, traits. So they've just been ruling by basically whitewashing history this entire time, and that's by deifying their own selves and their images. All right.
I found what you're looking for. Started around 1681 and 1691.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes, sir. All right. They start calling themselves white then, and everything. But here's that definition I was looking for. It represents evil, negative, wicked, nefarious, sinister, and foul. All right. Dirty, sooty, grimy, stained, smudged. Gloomy, sad, dismissal, somber, desolate, bleak. All right. And so everything basically the opposite of white. And that's why they put that negative connotation on the Negroes, the Hispanic and American Indians. Just call them blacks, call them Negroes, niggers, whatever they want to call them when it comes down to it, but who they truly are, which are the true biblical Hebrew Israelites and everything. So our people go around submerged in this wickedness, being proud of being black, and that's just the once again it shows, who are the trodden down in this world because they've been given an identity that basically says that they are nothing. They have made a people to destroy their own image, be their own demise, just make fun of their own selves on a daily basis. These Edomites, who they are. But Salaki, just a little off topic, but you got it, brother.
Baba, I got a precept for you as well.
Yep. You got it.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter as well, because Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 14 is the blessings, and Deuteronomy 15 to 68 are the curses. And the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 37, is the reason why, I'm speaking on why Esau Edom, he labeled himself as white and gave you Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans, specifically the Negroes, the connotation of black. And really that label is on the Northern Kingdom as well, because they call us what? So-called black Hebrew Israelites. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 37, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whether the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua shall lead thee. See, we're going to be bywords and calling yourselves black, and calling yourselves, Latino, calling yourselves Native American. Those are bywords. And it proves that the curses are on the Israelites. And Esau, Edom, they have no curses because what? They are in rulership right now.
Con, brother. And, Salaki Vaughn, you got it, bro.
Con, and the other nations, we're astonishment. All this information is coming out, proving that we're the biblical Israelites. Even this lesson at night, going into Jacob and Esau. And yet our people, we're in astonishment because what? The world see and the world hear the truth going out. And yet 2/3 of the Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans, they continue to call themselves these bywords. Black, Latino, Mexican, Puerto Ricans. So.
Right. I got one right quick. And then you got it, Tazmach. It's Jeremiah 17 and 4. It says, and thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thy heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thy enemies in a land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever. And just going into, those curses, for not keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, all right, which was the judgment, we were sent into these to America, Babylon the Great, ultimately, in 1619. We came over here on the slave ships. And so our heritage was discontinued when it comes down to it. So it would be, we didn't know who we were. We called ourselves blacks and everything else under the sun. Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, whatever. They wanted to call us Puerto Ricans, And so this is more what you would call evidence to show that the people who are claiming to be Jews are not, because they didn't fall away from their heritage. They've been calling themselves these Jews or pretending to be, for a long time now. They are not under these astonishments. They're not being basically called bywords and proverbs. Matter of fact, they are a protective group of people. You say anything, they start blocking your channel and calling you names like Semitic when the word is Shemitic when it comes down to it. But they start calling you names and everything to protect these people that are ultimately committing these genocides and these homicides, that they've been doing. And these are the true characteristics of a Edomite. So, they're fitting that class of being Edomites by doing what they're doing, and we're fitting that class, the Negroes, Hispanic, Native American Indians, as being the true biblical Hebrew Israelites, from being at the bottom and being these bywords and these proverbs. You got it, brother. That's my.
Yeah, no, yeah, come on, brother, because the Edomites, they don't fulfill the curses like we did, man. That's another key factor on how you can pinpoint who Jacob, Israel, truly is. But if we could go back just to finish off Genesis 25 regarding the birthright, we can get Yaradan Genesis 25 and verse 33 and 34, bro. Just real quick.
This is Genesis 25, verse 33. And Jacob said, "Swear to me this day." And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 34. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright.
Yep, so ultimately Esau despised his birthright as being the first son. And as we were reading earlier, he came back from hunting, he was faint, and he asked Jacob to give him some of that red pottage, and he did. And Jacob told him, "Well, sell me your birthright and I'll feed you," because he was about to faint, he's looking weak, fragile, and Esau ultimately said, "What does this birthright profit me?" So he sold his birthright to Jacob, and ultimately after, Esau despised his birthright, and later on you read the blessings that came upon Esau and Jacob. And if we can go to the blessings, actually the account in Genesis 27, and we're going to get straight to the blessing of Esau, which is in verse 39.
This is Genesis 27, verse 39. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above.
Yep, so this is a time where Isaac was blessing his to Esau and Jacob. Right, this is the account of the blessings. And Esau ultimately, begged unto his father, because when you read into this, Jacob ultimately tricked his father Isaac, which was the heavenly father's will, and the blessings that were to go on Esau went to Jacob, and ultimately Esau came back from doing what he had to, and he wanted to receive his blessing. And his father told me, your blessings that you were going to get, I gave them to your brother Jacob. Because Isaac was old, he couldn't see. He could hear and all that, but he couldn't see because he was stricken in age, man. He was really old. So that account, was going into the blessings and all that, and ultimately Esau was being a crybaby, and he wept and he lifted up his voice and begged his father, do you have a blessing for me, father? And ultimately Isaac blessed him and told him that his blessing would be the fatness of the earth, right? Which when you go into that word fatness, it goes into the oil. And it says, and the dew of heaven from above. So ultimately Esau would have control of the sky. All right, as you can see, he'd be poisoning the sky, dropping chemtrails, direct energy weapons. And the fatness of the earth is a major key factor, because that word fatness goes into oil. And you can see that Esau today, which is the self-proclaimed white man, is doing all these atrocities and genocides and going out of his way for this possession of oil. So, verse 40, bro, if you could get that, Baba Kasha.
Genesis 27 and 40. And by that sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother.
And Salaki, bro, and the sword, it says, and by thy sword thou shalt live. We understand that the sword is significance to an instrument of death. All right, and ultimately, the sword is a weapon, right? And the modern day sword today would be the guns. Esau's blessing would be instruments of war or instruments of death, and you can see that today because Esau has a great military. He has a military. His blessing has always been the sword, man. That has been since when he came to the Americas. All right. As we read earlier, he was a hunter, a cunning hunter. He was always working with weapons and so on. Okay, but Esau's, it said that he would live by the sword. All right, so that's another major thing in history to understand that Esau, his blessing was the sword ultimately, man, and that's how he would conquer everything because it says, and by thy sword shalt thou live. So in order for him to keep conquering and reigning, it would have to be ultimately through his blessing, which is the sword. You got it, bro.
Genesis 27:40 from the top. And by that sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck.
And so Esau would have the sword, and ultimately he was destined to serve Jacob. You see, he was destined to serve the Israelites ultimately, man.
Right quick. I got this Revelation 6:4. It says, and there went out another horse that was red. You got that, Mark?
God. And yeah, go ahead, bro. You can read it.
All right. Revelation 6:4 says, and there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword.
Yep, so you see, this ties in with what we're reading right now in Genesis, all right? Because it ain't no coincidence that what we're going through is Genesis, and now the brother brought in Revelation, which Revelation goes into reveal, to lay open, to unveil. So Revelation 6:4 is going into Edom because that horse that was red, horse is significant to power.
Right.
And red, we understand that goes into Edom because once again, Edom means red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. So that ties in directly with his blessing.
Right.
So through his blessing, the sword, he will take peace from the earth because the sword, like we mentioned, is an instrument of war or an instrument of death, man.
Right. And the brother had made mention about how he has that military might. In Revelation 6:4 it says that, and there went out another horse that was red, and power was given unto him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. But that horse represents power, and that's his military might, in which he's been ruling with. That's been bringing that sword, to this earth and bringing that destruction. All right, if you look it up, you'll see that the U.S. of A has the most military bases in the world. All right, it's because they are the modern day Roman Empire. Rome 2.0. It's ran by the ancient political system of Rome over here, which is ran by the Edomites. But U.S. Military bases. Let's see. It says the U.S. military operates a vast network of 335 domestic installments across all 50 states and Washington. Let's see. Military bases in the world. It says the United States maintains a massive global military footprint with an estimate of 750 plus bases and outposts, roughly 80 countries and territories. All right. And so this military complex of Babylon the Great America is scattered or spread far, everywhere when it comes down to it, because it's its rulership represents its rulership, its reign. How many military bases he has, as it did in the ancient Roman Empire. All right. So just wanted to bring that out. Just going into how this man is ruling in America, ruling in Babylon the Great. This Edomite, and ultimately, it starts with the elite, the banking families, as well. The Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and them. These are Edomites. All right, these people have a blood thirst, ultimately for human life. We go into the Habakkuk, brother, rather Habakkuk chapter 2 and 6 right quick. Then I'll give it back to you, Tazmach.
Con, I got you.
We got.
I was already right there, but I had it in the NLT. Let me go back to the KJV. The book of Habakkuk, chapter 2 and verse 6. We'll go right to the point. Like you said, shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long, and to him that ladeth himself with thick clay.
And ultimately that thick clay goes into debt, goes into his criminality on the world, but his ultimately his debt on things that he's taken on this earth. All right, and it's Esau, Edom. So he's taken everything by the sword, or stolen everything, and the whole world is crying out about him right now. All right, he's still trying to take things right now, which is him lining up with these scriptures. All right, so the wicked is doing wickedly on the face of this earth, as it is being made evident. It's manifesting in this time. All right, you got it, brother.
Real quick, Yeradan, we were Genesis 27, and go ahead, bro, verse 41.
This is Genesis 27 and 41. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob.
So Esau hated Jacob, man. That's very important to know. And it says Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And ultimately Esau contemplated to slay his brother Jacob, man, which the brother made mention earlier, or maybe it's a thought that came out, but ultimately you resemble the two brothers in Genesis, also the beginning of Genesis, Cain and Abel, because Cain slayed his brother Abel. And now the spirit that was in Cain, because he was a murderer, right? He murdered his brother Abel. Now Esau is contemplating to do the same thing that Cain did to Abel. So Esau wants to slay his brother Jacob because of the blessing that his father blessed him with, and he was going to do this ultimately when his father when his father would pass away. Then Esau would ultimately look forward into slaying Jacob. And that's very important because it tells you that Esau hated Jacob, man. All right, and one of the condemnations in the scriptures in Ezekiel 35, it tells you that that Esau had a perpetual hatred against the Israelites, man. And we could pinpoint who's hated the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who's oppressed us the most, right? Who's really showed us when it comes to that word hate, man. And it's only a specific race that fully did in there, whatever they could to us, man. And it was a proclaimed Caucasian race, so-called white people, which the scriptures tell us that they are the Edomites, man. That's how we can pinpoint who Esau is today throughout history. How they slayed us, how they lynched us, how they oppressed us, tortured us, man. Ultimately, came, raped, robbed, and murdered, took everything that we had, enslaved the Negroes and so on, man. Committed a genocide to the so-called Indian tribes and so on. But, like I was saying, that's the important part in history to understand that Esau hated Jacob. And if brothers don't got anything, can we get the book of Malachi, chapter 1?
Book of Malachi.
Yeah, go ahead, bro. You got it.
The book of Malachi, chapter 1 and verse 1. The burden of the word of the Lord Yahweh to Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, saith the Lord Yahweh. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? Saith the Lord Yahweh, yet I love Jacob.
Yep, so, it's explaining the Lord's love towards Israel, man. And then it brings up Esau, right? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? And it says, saith the Lord Yahweh, yet I love Jacob. You got the next precept, brother.
Verse 3, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness.
Yep, and that the Lord is making it clear. I hate Esau, man. And ultimately, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste. Right? And once again, that precept ties in with his name. Joshua wasted away is he, because it's prophesied that the Lord, laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Ultimately, they would be desolate, man. Go ahead, brother. You got the next precept.
Verse 4, Malachi 1 and 4. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build a desolate places. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord Yahweh have indignation forever.
Yep, so Edom ultimately, said we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. And ultimately, that is what happened. When you go into history, there was a time in history called the Renaissance, which goes into the rebirth. In Latin, I believe is nacimiento, which means the rebirth. And it was ultimately the rebirth of the nation of Edom. All right, and that's what the Renaissance is going into. And this precept is ultimately telling you, that Esau, Edom, would rebuild the desolate places, and ultimately the Lord is going to throw them down, but they would be known as the border of wickedness. Again, the people against whom the Heavenly Father Yahweh hath indignation forever. So, a hatred towards Esau, Edom. All right, and ultimately, Esau came back into power in the Renaissance. All right, and there were certain things that Esau started doing once he got back into power, which ultimately he came back into power around the 1400s. All right, but Esau, when you go into history, you go into iconoclasm. So if a brother can get the First Maccabees chapter 3 and 48, but just to bring out the scriptures in this precept, verse 4, another important thing to understand is that the nation of Edom would be called the border of wickedness. So Esau would be known to be the wicked according to this precept. Whoever got it, bro, First Maccabees 3 and 48.
This is First Maccabees chapter 3, verse 48. And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images.
Yep, so the book of the law is the Holy Bible, the scriptures, man. Right? Wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images, which ultimately this is going into iconoclasm. All right, and the heathen that painted the likeness of their images were the Edomites, man. All right, because the Edomites were the heathen that repainted the iconic images, right, into their own likeness of their images. So they ultimately whitewashed them, you know, and that's how they, one of the first things they did when they got into power, man. Iconoclasm.
Which means
you got it, bro.
Just right quick, AI overview, iconoclasm. It says is the deliberate destruction of religious or political images rooted in belief that such icons are idols, promote false worship, or are inherently blasphemous. All right, so this is what Esau's done. He's painted his image over, the ancient religious or political images, and going into that whitewashing, which we spoke of earlier. You got it.
God. Yeah, and that directly ties in with Job 9:24.
All right.
If a brother can get that also.
Yeah, I'm on it. This is Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he?
Yep. So we just read First Maccabees 3:48. The brother brought out, the overview, AI overview on iconoclasm, right? And we read the heathen sought to paint the images in the likeness of themselves. But Job 9:24 is telling you that the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. Malachi 1:4 tells you that Esau, Edom will be known as a border of wickedness. And then when you continue reading this, Job 9:24, it tells you he covereth the faces of the judges thereof, if not, where and who is he? So now we understand that, the wicked is Esau, Edom, because they ultimately covered the faces of the judges thereof. And then it says, if not, where and who is he? So, who painted all these images, depicted themselves in iconic images. It wasn't, the Chinese man, the East Indian man, the Arab, right? Because they want to say Arab or Persians. It was the so-called, Caucasian race, the so-called white people, man. The Edomites in the scriptures. That's how you can pinpoint who the wicked is.
That's right. That's right. So today, modern day, the you got these modern day Christians, evangelicals who are in love with white Jesus, white identity, to the point that this is why it was created, to deify his image. So everything brown, everything black, they are demonizing, as they are demonizing the people over there in the so-called Middle East. We gotta remember that's not the Middle East. That's more of his white superiority complex. How he can just start removing names and borderlines and everything. All right, but he's changed the faces of the judges, starting with the one they call God, but the one they call Jesus, whose true names are Yahweh and Yahweh Shai, and also the apostles, the disciples, on down. They have whitewashed, the Bible when it comes down to it. All right, pull up Apostle Paul right quick, and the scripture tells us that Paul was a Benjamite. All right, and he had dark skin as well as an Ethiopian, because I believe it was the soldier that asked him, art thou that Ethiopian? Well, he was speaking in another language. I believe that's going into that account with Paul. Let's see. Ethiopian. Let's see. Bear with me. Right. Downloads. is Acts 21:38 says, Are not thou that Ethiopian which before these days made an uproar and led us out into wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers? All right, let's start up on that. This is Acts 21:37. It says, And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, May I speak unto thee? Who said, Canst thou speak Greek? So he asked him if thou can speak his Greek. He said, Art not thou that Ethiopian? So he was baffled that he could speak Greek because he spoke in Greek. He said, Art thou that Ethiopian? Because he looked like he was. I'm saying Ethiopian. It said Egyptian. Salakia. It said, Are not thou that Egyptian, which before these days made us an uproar and led us out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers? So he said, man, basically he looked like an Egyptian, but he spoke Greek. So just as an example, just going into the complexion of Apostle Paul, that they whitewashed as well into being to look like an Edomite, like the brothers going into. It's one nation of people that has done this with all the history, with all the the Bible, with everything. They have set themselves up to be worshipped, and that's the characteristics of an Edomite. And grab this right quick in Habakkuk chapter 2. It says in 5. It says, "Yea, also because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man. All right, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people." All right, and that transgressions by wine is his philosophies, ideologies, his way of living, existing on earth, which is being wicked. As the scripture tells us, the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. So he pushes a wicked ideology upon the earth. Way of living. It says he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. And this has always been the question. This is something I believe Vladimir Putin has said when the Ukraine war kicked off. Why is America over here, in Ukraine? They should be in America worried about American issues. Now they're over in Iran and everything. And they're scattered. We just brought out there are over 750 something bases that this man is scattered to throughout the whole entire world. So he never keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell. So he wants the whole earth to be a hell, to be a pit. Ultimately, the valley of the shadow of death, which is a place of low morale, low condition of living. All right. And it says, and he is as death and cannot be satisfied, but gathered unto him all nations, and heaped unto him all people. And that's going into him trying to deify himself and take up all the substances of the earth. He wants to be as a god, being in that proudful mindset that the Lord set him in. All right, so these are very pivotal. I say pivotal, but these are very important characteristic traits that Esau will be embodied. And there's only one nation of people that's operating like this. You don't see any other nation operating as this pompous fool trying to push their ideologies, philosophies on everybody. Esau is spreading around the world a false sense of freedom, saying, come be like me, come be with me, you can have liberty. But in actuality, all you will take part in is death. It'd be just more death. That's what his way of life leads you to, death. All right, what you got, brother?
I got a precept by Baba Shah, if I may, bro. And we're going to stick with Esau, like Brother Kassar was speaking on, that Esau, he got all those bases all over Eurasia, because it's not the Middle East. We're standing in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 1. I'm going to go right to the point. This is in the NLT, Habakkuk 1:6. It says, I am raising up the Babylonians, a cruel and violent people. They will march across the world and conquer other lands. That's why he heapeth unto him all people. He march across the world. He don't actually march. He uses his military industrial complex, his ships, his air force, and they march across the world and they conquer other lands. Verse 7, In the NLT, Habakkuk 1:7, it said they are notorious for their cruelty and do whatever they like.
Wow.
And that's another characteristic and trait of Esau Edom. You know, they do whatever they like because he was blessed with that sword. And we know that Babylon is America, Babylon the Great today, speaking of in the Holy Scriptures.
Con. No, yeah, con, bro, because even when you focus on the nation of Edom in the Old Testament, it brings up the Duke, one of the Dukes of Edom, which the Duke goes into a chief. And one of the chiefs of the house of Edom, the nation of Edom, was Amalek. And if, you know, Amalek are Edomites, ultimately, man, because they come, Amalek was the grandson of Esau. So, that, you know, he's from the same lineage as Esau. So that makes him an Edomite also, just from a different, you know, different tribe or whatever. But he's still from the nation of Edom. And I believe in Deuteronomy 25 and also in Numbers 24. You know, the Lord basically, you know, condemns Amalek for what they did to the Israelites, man. Because when we got out of Egypt, you know, we were faint, we were tired, we were weary, and the Amalekites came and attacked us, man. You know, they smote us, right, when we were faint and weary, and ultimately they didn't fear Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. So there was an order ultimately going out that you know, the remembrance of Amalek would be blotted out ultimately. But if a brother can we get Numbers 24 and 20 just to touch on Amalek real quick? Because as brother mentioned earlier, you got you know, certain people deceiving others, saying that, you know, certain people are Amalek, but, you know, Amalek are Edomites, man, which are what? We know them today as the small hats. The ones, the imposters over there in our land, those are Amalekites, man.
Right.
This is Numbers 24 and 20. And when he looked on Amalek, he took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his latter end shall be that he perish forever.
Yep, so Amalek, when it says Amalek was the first of the nations, it says that because Amalek was the first nation ultimately, you know, as I mentioned earlier, that attacked the Israelites once we came out of Egypt. All right, they didn't fear Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai because Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai had already delivered us from the captivity of Egypt. You know, he had done miracles and so on. But Amalek didn't care, man. They didn't fear Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. They attacked us, you know, and that just shows you the hatred ultimately that Edom has towards the Israelites, man. And that was done by a chief of the nation of Edom known as Amalek. So ultimately, when you go to Exodus, Deuteronomy 25, and verse 19, it tells you that to blot out the remembrance of Amalek for what they did to us, man. Just how we read in Numbers 24 and 20, it says, but his latter end shall be that he perish forever. So it ain't, Esau Edom has no forgiveness of sins, you know, he was rejected ultimately, as we read in Malachi 1 and 4. He's been rejected, you know, he's hated by the Heavenly Father. So, you know, it's very important to know these things on who Esau Edom is today.
That's right. And so, and the scripture tells us that the Lord will not acquit the wicked. It means that the Lord is coming to judge the wicked. A brother can grab that, and my sword shall be bathed in Idumea. And I'm going to grab this one right quick. Like the brother going into. The chief house of Edom, Edomites, is Amalekites. which are the JOOs in the land over there right now, waging war with its neighbors, should I say? But man, they're over there right now pretending to be somebody that they're not, and casting filth on everybody else by calling them Edomites. They call the Palestinian people Edomites. Then they call the Iranian people Edomites. Everybody they don't like is Edomites. But then, when it really comes down to it, they'll tell you that, oh, well, the Edomites were erased off the face of this earth. But here in Exodus 17 and 16, it says, "For he said, because the Lord Yahweh has sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation." So the Lord has sworn that he'll be warring with Amalek, or the chief house of Edom, from generation to generation, until he is destroyed and made a desolate and is perished off the face of this earth. All right, after he's reaped what he's sown on the face of this earth. So, man, the Amalekites are over there right now, waging war as they've been doing, which is the chief house of Edom. Whoever got it.
Book Isaiah chapter 34 and verse 5. "For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea
Right.
and upon the people of my curse to judgment."
Right. And the people of his curse are the Edomites that are going to be judged. That sword is that ICBM missile that's going to come down on Idumea, which is ultimately the inhabitants of where Babylon the Great is, America, where Esau, Edom is dwelling at, for the most part, ruling at. It's that border of wickedness that the Lord is coming to delete off the face of this earth. All right. I believe it talks about that in the Psalms, the 37th chapter, when it ties Edom to Babylon. I believe it goes into like, "O daughter of Edom," or "daughter of Babylon, who ought to be destroyed." Somewhere along the lines of that. So we're quickly approaching the time that Esau is going to be destroyed, man. His system, his power structure, his authority on earth. He's getting ready to go into slavery and go into chains and then be erased off the face of this earth. All right. Let's see.
I got it, brother.
All right, you got it.
This is Psalms 137 and verse 7. It says, "Remember, O Lord Yahweh, the children of Edom, in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof."
That's right. So, remember, O Lord, the children of Edom, or the Edomites, who said, erase it, even to the foundation thereof. You got it?
Verse 8, "O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewarded thee as thou hast served us."
Man, so that ultimate recompense is getting ready to fall back upon Esau, O daughter of Babylon. So the scriptures is tying Esau to being a ruler of Babylon, the daughter of Babylon, who ought to be destroyed. So, and the Lord has set these things in motion. Esau is being revealed at the end of days, these days in which we're living in. Ultimately by the prophets, but by his Esau being made bare, meaning that he is doing everything the scriptures is basically demanding him to be doing in his time. All right, by being that bloodthirsty murderer, rapist, and robber, in these scriptures. So Esau is being made bare. So can't no other nation be the Edomites, but the nation that's ruling, right now on the world stage, which are the self-proclaimed white people. All right, these are the Edomites. You got it.
Might as well, brothers don't anything, so might as well just close it out.
Come on, brother, you got it.
So with that, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Before we leave, we want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakakwadash, double honors to the apostles, elder bishops of Great Millstone, double honors to the high priest elders that were before them, peace and salutations to you sincere brothers out there pushing this word with all sincerity and in truth. Until the next one, shalom.
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 Shalom.